Hello there, a very good evening to you indeed, and many thanks for joining us on Rwanda Television News tonight. I hope that you had yourselves a great, fruitful and productive Monday. Welcome to today's edition. These are the headlines. Rwanda and Kenya have engaged in discussions on bilateral cooperation in the judicial sector. On Monday, the automation phase of all 416 Umurenge SACCOs reached completion. And to international matters, a Chinese aircraft manufacturer is actively engaging in marketing its commercial jet on the international market. We are more than glad to have your company tonight on Rwanda Television News tonight. And as we start off our tonight edition, Rwanda's Supreme Court President, Dr. Faustin Nteziryayo, and his Kenyan counterpart, Martha Koome, led discussions on bilateral collaboration in the judicial sector in Kigali on Monday. The Kenyan Supreme Court delegation is in Rwanda for a benchmarking visit. Adam Squizera starts us off tonight.
In the last 30 years, Rwanda's justice sector has undergone significant transformation, particularly in the establishment of programs aimed at expediting the prosecution of perpetrators of the genocide against Tutsi. One of the most notable initiatives was the implementation of the Gacaca courts. Martha Koome, the Chief Justice and President of the Supreme Court of Kenya, affirms that Rwanda's approach to justice, particularly through the implementation of the Gacaca courts, serves as a valuable lesson to the Kenya's judicial sector.
In Kenya, we are trying to embrace the alternative justice system to help us resolve so many of the disputes because very few people, actually maybe about 20%, are able to access the formal justice system. The rest of the matters are resolved through the other informal systems. And as you know, Rwanda has a very established system, the Gacaca system of courts, which are informal, which are people-centric, which are reachable to the majority of the people.
Dr. Faustin Nteziryayo, the President of the Supreme Court of Rwanda, also affirmed the significant progress made in Rwanda's justice sector over the past 30 years. He highlights the establishment of player bargaining system, a method that has effectively resolved more than 9,000 cases across the country, demonstrating Rwanda's commitment to innovative judicial practices that enhance efficiency and deliver justice.
The same goes also with issue pertaining to plea-bargaining that we have been borrowing from the common law system. So there are a rich experience that Kenya has. And through this dialogue, we will continue, and as the Honorable Chief Justice said, through the Memorandum of Understanding, we'll be able to structure our collaboration and cooperation between our counterpart from Kenya.
Rwanda's Supreme Court President, Faustin Nteziryayo, and his Kenyan counterpart, Martha Koome, led the discussions on the bilateral collaboration and potential areas of cooperation in the two countries' judicial sector as part of a 4-day benchmarking visit by a delegation from the Kenyan Supreme Court. Adam Squizera, RwandaTV News.
Thank you, Adams. Moving ahead, on Monday, Prime Minister Dr. Edouard Ngirente received Ambassador Clever Gatete, the Executive Secretary of the UN Economic Commission for Africa, UNECA. Discussions focused on expanding Rwanda's partnership with UNECA in various strategic sectors, as elaborated by Ambassador Clever Gatete, the Executive Secretary of the UN Economic Commission for Africa.
Privileged to have met the Right Honorable Prime Minister for allowing us to have a proper discussion on our extra support. United Nations Economic Commission has been working with Rwanda for a long time, and actually we have the sub-regional office of Eastern Africa here in Rwanda, which is really a big advantage. We thank the government of Rwanda, but we wanted also to go to other more impactful areas. And in addition to what we have been doing in the areas of technology, in the areas of tourism and other areas, but we wanted this time to really go deep into other impactful areas. So we've chosen 4 of them, which are very, very useful. And one is the Gako beef farm, which is ongoing, where the country has 6,000 hectares of land and animals there, but we wanted to make sure that it's done properly and we develop that one as a value chain up to the final market, but also involving the private sector. We also wanted to make sure that also we develop the other part of the value chain, and also to make sure that it's not only the GACO as an industrial area, but also ordinary people are benefiting from this. So we've learned from other experiences of other countries where this is being done, especially Botswana, Namibia, and many other countries. And also in leather, Ethiopia is also advanced. That's why I'm making different things, jackets, shoes, handbags, and other things. So we want to make sure that also we can imitate, but also add more value to the study, package everything together, bring in the private sector, and also the financing issue, so that we do it properly for the benefit of Rwandans. That's one of the projects. But also wanted also to supplement the Gabiro project, the agriculture which uses irrigation, where you can produce food for domestic consumption, but also for exports, and bring in the private sector, so that it's not only the government spending, but also the private sector being part of the process. So this is also an area that we're going to be working with the government. Another area is trying to see how in the area of mining, so that Rwanda has been doing quite a good job in terms of traceability, and also starting some of the industries like gold, like satellite and tantalite, in terms of the processing here. But we want to make Rwanda a center of excellence in terms of processing of minerals, and do it in a proper way. And this is where I want to partner with the country in terms of doing it and doing it properly. The final one is for trade facilitation. All our exports and imports, there is a heavy cost, because it goes through either Dar es Salaam port or it goes through Mombasa port in Kenya. And that distance is too long, very costly, which is affecting the cost of living here. And that's why we want to explore how we can use Lake Victoria, so that things come nearer, somewhere in Uganda, where they can, Masaka, where it can be, the distance will be shortened. And then what is required in terms of the facilities, here we are looking at the oil jetty, which is the facilities for loading and unloading for some of the fuels, some of the products, like fuel, like gas and other things, but also the lighter goods, to see how we can now go back to the old project of Akagera navigation. That Akagera navigation would allow some of the lighter products to come by water, by the river, up to Kajitumba in the eastern province. And that would reduce significantly the cost and the time of the goods that we get from outside, or from the goods that we get from outside. So we are really very much appreciative that we have had this chance to meet the Prime Minister. He has also requested us to do an evaluation on the tourism sector. What has worked, what needs to be an improvement, how do we assess the whole entire tourism, so that we can know exactly where we need to put more investments as a government. So here we are going to study that, but also on the human development, because we want to make sure that the civil servants, the others, are also getting the right capacity that we need. And this is something that we're going to explore.
To security matters, on Monday, the Chief of General Staff of the Central African Republic Armed Forces, Major General Serafin Mamadou, visited the Rwanda Defense Force headquarters, where he was welcomed by the RDF Chief of Defense Staff, General Mubarak Muganga. He also extended a courtesy call to the Minister of Defense, Honorable Juvenal Marizamunda. They held bilateral talks to further deepen the existing relations between the two countries. Speaking to the media after the meeting, Major General Serafin Mamadou said the purpose of his visit is indeed to exchange and advance within the framework of the agreements signed in the past in the field of training and operations that are progressing well.
Le but de notre rencontre avec le chef d'état-major.
My meeting with the Chief of Defense Staff of the Rwanda Defense Force will facilitate the continued implementation of the agreement signed in the past years in training, operations, which is already going well. This visit is aimed to assess the progress in jointly implementing the agreement, as well as assessing the remaining tasks. We agreed on ways to move forward. The other thing is that military cooperation between our countries is excellent due to the relations between our army chiefs. who accepted to push our armies to move under Rwanda's model, which has excelled in restoring peace in the Central African Republic.
En République centrafricaine, également en bilatéral.
From security, we transition it to the financial sector. The completion of the automation phase of all 416 Umurenje SACCOs operating in Rwanda's 416 administrative sectors on Monday, June 10, marks a pivotal moment in the journey towards enhancing financial services and paves the way for their consolidation into a district SACCOs or DSACCOs that will later form the establishment of a cooperative bank. What does this move imply in terms of the operations of the SACCOs and Rwanda's banking sector? Faith Kobusinje is the project coordinator for USACCO automation and consolidation.
Within automation, what we've basically been doing is we've built a core banking system that provides financial services to the SACCO. We basically have taken the operating systems or the way they've been working manually, and we've digitized or automated these processes, which means you can deposit money, you can save, you can withdraw, you can form a group and have an account. We've basically automated what the SACCO has been doing in the manual way, but through now the technology rails. And that means that the SACCOs are able to operate like any bank right now. Any microfinance institution, they are able to validate that the customer that they have booked or the customer that they have put on their system is indeed that customer. This system is connected to the national ID system, to the mobile system. So when we are booking you onto a core banking system, we are sure that there's no duplication and basically that you're a real person. The other things that have happened, of course, are the accounting ways of banking or financial institutions, which we've built through the system. The ledgers, the financial statements, the financial systems, the financial accounts for customers as well as the institution. So today we have closed the 416th SACCO that is now on a core banking system that is shared, developed, homegrown by Rwandans. So this has supported the reporting for financial statements on the SACCOs so that they don't have to carry that capital expense to build a system and own it. With the coming levels, the core banking system now, one, will allow or is already doing the mobile banking channels. SACCO members and customers will be able to access their accounts on mobile. We've done this in Rutunga. Rutunga SACCO in Kigali is already live. We've already launched it for Musanze within 15 SACCOs, which are now already registering their customers. You can receive an SMS notification, you can check your balance, you can transfer funds within the same SACCO. And we've also enabled other institutions like Central Bank to do easier supervision, faster reporting. So we have real-time reporting between our system, which is the core banking system, and the Central Bank.
And to Rwanda's economy, the automation is a significant milestone beyond just financial inclusion and economic empowerment.
What this means for Rwanda as a country, we have now a financial inclusion level of 96%. But when you talk about financial inclusion, you also want to be able to say, how sustainable is this? Yes, I have a bank account, but is it active? Yes, I have a savings account, but am I consistent? Am I hopping from one place to another? Am I being financially literate to why I have to save? So as a project, we didn't just come and bring a system. We had to educate end users. We had to educate customers. We had to teach people even how to use computers. So you're talking about digital literacy. You're talking about increased levels of financial literacy. So the government's ambition for growth in deposit mobilization can now be actualized. You're talking about integrations to other systems like eTax, Ejoheza. So a Muturaji will not need to come to you go to Irembo, you declare. As you're at home seated, you also pay your taxes the same way like anybody with a bank account can do. So you're increasing digital literacy, but you're also increasing financial literacy. People can now plan better. People can now have budgeting at home level, at individual level. And they're not going to be excluded in the sense that I have a bank account but I don't use it because in other banks they get SMSs, in other banks they have mobile banking. No, these functionalities will be next in the palm of their hand, as close as that. For Rwanda as a country, again, the ability to remove cash and the printing cost of cash out of the ecosystem is a huge relief on the expense government has. So when you have a cashless economy, you have a digital economy, you have removed the whole cost and burden of having to print cash, that then equivalently reduces where government would be spending on printing cash to other services, into health, into VUP, and other programs.
Since the 1970s, SACCOs have been an integral part of Rwanda's financial landscape. However, the findings of the 2008 FinScope study revealed that 52% of the adult population have faced financial exclusion. FinScope Rwanda 2008, which was prepared for the central bank by the Finmark Trust, a South African non-profit organization, indicated that only 14% of the Rwandan population above 18 years of age used banks to address this issue and promote economic development. The 2008 December National Dialogue meeting recommended the establishment of at least one SACCO in each administrative sector, Umurenji. Moving ahead to social welfare matters, the National Irrigation Project in Kirehe District have changed the lives of neighboring residents who had been long affected by droughts. Residents say their lives have been transformed thanks to the good governance. We do have the details with Adam Squizera.
twambaye impumbya z'abatabazi intwari y'u Rwanda yararutsindiye azaruyobora.
A 72-year-old Kangabe Joyce lives in Nashu in Kirehe District. In 1998, senior government officials visited the area and Kangabe explained how drought highly affects their produce.
kubera izuba ryari ryavuye n'aha ngaha ndakivuga.
We used to face a lot of drought, so I raised the issue. I told them, see, we don't have minerals to extract. How do you think we will survive? There were senior government officials. They took note of the issue raised.
American investor Howard Buffett started an irrigation project in the area that cost more than $50 million.
naraje aha ngaha natashye sikanyisuta kuri sugo executive yahise yamanuka agenda nge naraje natashye ndaza.
I came home with my who, wondering if it really happened. I didn't imagine that an issue I raised could be solved. I danced alone here at home. I even composed a song.
narasetse ndabyina mpimba n'akaririmbo yewe. Teza urugori rw'ababyeyi dufashe iby'iburyo turaganje twambaye impumbya z'abatabazi intwari y'u Rwanda yararutsindiye azaruyobora.
Kangabe now earns $1 million francs or more from the harvest per season.
I have about 4,000 square meters. After harvesting, I earn about 1.2 million Rwandan francs, but I also harvest what to feed myself.
Nashu citizens who used to relocate due to extreme droughts now say citizens from other areas come to the Nashu for survival.
Mu myaka 30 urabona hano Nashu dufite kaburimbo.
In 30 years, Nashu has changed. We have tarmac road, schools, buildings and more. The drought was too much, but this project saved us.
Izuba rikomeye cyane ariko uyu mushinga waje ari gisubizo.
Nta nubwo ari ku banyamuryango gusa. Inyungu ziva muri ishoramara ryacu rigera ku gihugu cyose kubera yuko
It's not for the members only. Interest from this investment reached the entire country. Because, for example, we produce 80% of all soybeans produced countrywide. We cultivate, get what to feed our families, and rest is supplied all over the country.
cyane cyane yuko inkunga twayitewe n'igihugu cyacu kugira ngo natwe tube turi aho tugeze uyu munsi.
Natural residents who were given full control of the valley have now saved more than 800 million Rwandan francs for repair work in case of damage. 8 to 9 tons of the maize are harvested on 1 hectare of irrigated land. There are more than 140 families living in a model village, and in this area, a commercial center locally known as Agachiriro, a hospital and a city center has been established in the area. Adam Squizera, RwandaTV News.
Tech experts demonstrated that for 30% of data on the African continent to be kept in clusters found in Africa has sped up a service as no more storing out of other continent. Prince Manzi brings us the details.
These clusters are established in Nairobi, Kenya and Cairo in Egypt. Participants in the 80th Conference of the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers, ICANN, stress on the investments in data infrastructures as there are still few on the continent. Currently, 65% of the African information are kept on servers outside the continent, hence the establishment of these clusters in Nairobi and Cairo, keeping 30% of all the data needed in Africa.
Before we have this cluster in Nairobi and in Cairo, at least most of the information from Africa are going up there, up to north, and back to Africa, because most of the servers are over there. But today, with what we've installed, the cluster of servers that we installed there that can just take your queries directly without you going outside of Africa, is reducing, the latency, and also 30% of the African traffic is now being handled by those servers. We expect to have more on them in Africa, so that when Africa is mapped out with those clusters, then most of the information will be handled in Africa, not outside Africa, and thereby, reducing the latency, thereby, of course, cutting, the cost of accessibility. And all in all, it's about, promoting the digital, economy in Africa.
The Association of 458 microfinance institutions in Rwanda, at least 5.7 million people access their services. Its executive director, Jackson Kwikiriza, states that safety of their clients' funds is important. That is why keeping them out of the country is illegal. That is the first security, making sure that the info of microfinances are kept in the country and in safety. And thirdly, the backup. There is also the cloud that saves money, especially for upcoming microfinances, for not affecting their performance. There are over 4 million domains registered under African country code top-level domains and 1.1 million kilometers of fiber cables interconnecting the continent, with Rwanda having them on a 95% coverage of the country. But recently, there has been an outage of the internet. The general manager of the ICT regulation at the Rwanda Utilities Regulatory Authority, Charles Gahungu, reiterates that this issue was a result of cuts of fiber cables in the Indian Ocean. The cut fiber cables were in the northern, near the Red Sea, and in the south, but they were innovated. And also we tried to consume various cables because the damaged were not all. The recent blackout was because of that, but there are also other cables remaining, but also the damaged were renovated. The World Bank states that the investment in data infrastructures will account for $73 billion in 2028. Prince Manzi, RwandaTV News.
Thank you, Prince. To health matters, nurses from hospitals hosting Isange one-stop centers said that equipping them with specialized forensic skills on evidence collection and preservation will improve access to justice for victims of gender-based violence and child abuse. We do have the details. Working in 48 hospitals around the country are being trained on evidence collection and preservation for gender-based violence and child abuse.
nk'ibimenyetso bifatwa ku muntu wakubiswe hari ikoranabuhanga rikoreshwa
There is a way to examine someone who has been beaten and the extent of the damage, and that can help in delivering justice. The same can be done for a person who has been sexually abused.
People who come to us are mostly gender-based violence victims, but also victims of physical, psychological, and financial abuse. We collect evidence for those who faced a physical abuse and gender-based violence. Only doctors had the knowledge on collecting the evidence, but now nurses will be helping in doing so. The UN Rwanda commended the collaboration with the Rwanda Investigation Bureau in efforts to eradicate gender-based violence.
When a victim is poorly handled, they can fail to give out information and evidence that could have been used in justice delivery. We need them to clearly understand their responsibilities so they know how to receive the victim and how to collect and preserve the evidence for justice delivery.
The Secretary General of the Rwanda Investigation Bureau reiterated that with the rising globalization, forensic evidence is more crucial in justice delivery. When a victim comes to you, they want to be treated as victims, not doing it just because it's your work. They need to feel that you have embraced their pain, and that is important in helping them to heal. This needs to be done with compassion, for it is where justice delivery begins. Today, evidences that are not tech-based are hardly considered by judges, because criminals also understand this. Without forensic evidence, a prosecutor finds it hard to win the case. The Rwanda Investigation Bureau statistics indicate that in the past 5 years, from 2018 to 2023, 38,812 gender-based violence cases were investigated. In the same period, 24,051 cases of child abuse were investigated. Senators who are members of the Committee on Education, Science, ICT and Youth Development from the High Council of the Namibian Parliament on a benchmarking visit to Rwanda, where they visited the Rwandan Senate to learn from Rwanda and what the country has achieved in technology and education. Cedric Irakoze with more.
The Namibian senators were welcomed by the President of Rwandan Senate, Dr. François-Xavier Kalinda. Omuhira Driye, the chairperson of the Committee Social Affairs and Human Rights, presented to them the law passed by the Legislative Assembly that emphasized the use of technology in Rwanda's education as one of the milestones of the Assembly. He emphasized that the country Rwandan children are learning through the use of computers from primary schools until university studies.
Twaganiriye byagarukaga no ku buryo bamwe bakwigira ku bandi.
We talked about how one should learn from others, and we also showed them what we do in education from nursery up to universities. They all use technology. They desire to know how it works, but we also tell them the rules and policy that has been set by the Senate of Rwanda to achieve that, plus the will of politics.
Ariko kandi ikindi twababwiye nuko hari n'ubushake bwa politike.
These senators from Namibia noted that their country chose to learn from Rwanda because they believe that there is a progress in the use of technology in education.
In order for us to see how things are happening here, so that we at least can exchange, after we get those informations, and we will very much be proud also to be a part and parcel of the people of Rwanda, because I know that, or I heard from the president that soon we will sign Namibia and Rwanda. We will sign a memorandum of understanding, meaning we will be one and we will share more.
The Senate President, Dr. François-Xavier Kalinda, commended the relations between two countries. The Namibian senators are expected to visit the Ministry of Education, the Irembo platform, the Ministry of Youth and Arts, and more. Cedric Irakoze, RTV News.
On behalf of the entire news production, as well as the technical team, many thanks for being with us on today's edition. And up until next time, stay safe and we wish you a great, productive and fruitful week ahead. Goodbye.